An art journal tutorial, Go Out and Paint the Stars by Creative Katie, Karen Burchill. This is my response to Try It Tuesday, number 7 Prompt Stick Challenge. Join the Facebook group All Things Mixed Media, Creative Katie. This was inspired by a pin by Paint the Stars Studio. If you haven't subscribed, please take the time to hit the subscribe button. Creative Katie, Karen Burchill, and it's time for another Prompt Stick Challenge. And today is Try It Tuesday number 7, and it's being first put out there on April 12th. And our things are on the red for the paint and medium. It says to use paint or ink medium. It says to use metallic. So we're going to open that up, metallic kind of thing. So what I'm going to actually use is I'm going to use the ink. I'm going to use my Lindy's Starburst sprays, and they have this iridescent in them. I also have some Martha Stewart pearlescent stuff, which I may use. I've got my handy dandy silver acrylic paint that you can use. And I also have some Liquitex Basics and Artist Loft that are metallics as well. So you can mix your own, but whatever kind of metallic you have, use that. And I've decided that I'm going to use mainly my Lindy sprays for the metallic part. Purple texture, it says to use twine or string. So again, I had this cord. I tried with twine, I tried with string. I had this cord with this bright silver. So I'm going to use that because that's something in my stash and it falls into that category. Use junk mail. And right now, I really have no intention of using junk mail. The only thing I can think of is that I may add a tip in onto the page using junk mail. But it's not something I normally do, and I really found it hard to fit into my idea, and I really want to go with it. So I'm giving myself permission to do another thing. Space theme. So I am actually going to use black gesso in my background. So we're going into the deep, dark outer space. Blow paint. Now you can blow paint through a straw. I am going to use bottled air to blow the paint or ink around. And then use your own handwriting. So we will get to that. So, having that out of the way, I have decided to go back to my Canson mixed media page that has everything in it. And I am going to apply a layer of black gesso. I want gesso because I want that little bit of tooth instead of black paint. So I'm going to do that, and I will be right back. So once the black gesso is dry, I'm deciding to use my Dylusions paints because of their bright colors. Just perfect for the galaxy creation. And I'm just going to apply it with my fingers and maybe a little bit with a baby wipe here, there, and everywhere. There are lots of videos where people are painting galaxies, and you can go and find those. I've painted with acrylic paints. I've painted a galaxy with watercolors. I've painted with my Inktense blocks, and you can get that effect. I do have to tell you though that until you're done, it really doesn't look like much. And I'm looking at this, and I think I should have gone more, instead of up and down sideways, more kind of circular, cloud-like. But again, I like the end product, so it works. It gives the creation or the illusion of the space theme, which is what I was going for, and goes well with my quote by Van Gogh. So once I have the colors, I'm applying more black to break up some of the color and just bring that black back in and define some of the spaces. Just really following, what I like. Using a little bit of a cut hotel key card to kind of scrape the paint to get that effect. Just another way of spreading the paint. If it's too bright or something, I just kind of knock it back with the baby wipe. I definitely plan to create another page using the same technique. I could have used the metallic paint, but I found that the metallic paints, I didn't want that much metallic on the page. So there's a close-up of it once it's dry. Now I'm using my Starbursts, and of course I spill right off the bat, and my canned air. So I'm just putting a dab of the Starburst that's well shaken and spraying it. And this is just kind of making that Starburst pattern. And I just want that little bit of metallic showing through. And I'm playing with the different Starburst sprays that I have, trying to get an idea of which mica spray shows best. You really don't see the color of the spray in the end. It's more what the mica sprays. There, you can really see the gold kind of starbursts in there. So I'm just going through various colors and adding interesting layers. Now, the bad thing about using the Starburst is they reactivate with any wet medium later on. So anytime when I go to put the letters on this page, it soaks through the Posca pen, soaks through the Uniball Signo, soaks through the white acrylic paint. So it costed me some time and work later on. So I think next time I would use just thinned metallic paint to do the Starburst. So I've mixed a little bit of the metallic pearlized paint and white Liquitex, and I'm using a fan brush to splatter. This is where it just kind of suddenly becomes a galaxy, I find. And I have some bigger splatters and some smaller splatters, and I'm taking the time to dry in between because you want that to be quite distinct. I don't want to smudge any of them. So that's looking lovely. And I'm putting with the stylus a drop of paint, and I apologize that this is off camera. I was having difficulties. And I'm using the key card, the bit of the key card, and I'm just pulling the paint through in 6 or 8 directions to make the little twinkling stars. If I was doing this again, I would do it after I put the letters on, because sometimes the letter placement interfered with the stars. But it's what they say, by the time you're done a page, you know exactly how to do it. Any do-it-yourself project. And then I'm coming back and adding a dab in the middle just to make it a little bit whiter. So I've drawn lines there, and since it's one of the prompts is to use your own handwriting or print by yourself, and what I'm doing is I'm actually copying a font that I have in a stamp pad fairly closely, and I did practice on a scrap paper. And I'm writing Van Gogh's quote, "Go out and paint the stars." And I'm altering the size of the letters and with each line. But I do have a guideline underneath that I then erase. It's just very, very light. And I've got my spacing. There you can see me putting on a line. And I start with the middle letter and go out, and that way I've got the word paint centered on the page. After years of putting up bulletin boards, I've always done that. When I put the caption on a bulletin board, go to the top. And you can see I'm just breaking down the steps of that letter. So using thread or yarn or twine was one of the goals. So I'm using this silver cording to spell the word stars, and I just wanted to make sure how big to make the word the. I could have left it opened, the thing, but I've decided the letters open, but I want it to make them really white, to make them really pop. And this is where I ran into some difficulties, and you'll see me outlining it later and repainting it later and adding several layers. And in the end, the Lindy's sprays won because they're still bleeding through. To prevent that, I would needed to have sprayed it with a fixative of some kind and then painted the letters. But the fixative really causes me to have migraines, so it's not something that I use often. So I'll put up with the letters bleeding through. I'm really quite happy with how my letters turned out using doing it freehand. And I like where the stars have kind of fallen in. So I'm using Weld Bond glue, which is a multi-purpose, very, very tacky glue. And I'm placing it underneath on the cord and pressing down. And it's a very tedious job, so I don't show all of this because it's just trial and error and moving it, and I'm trying very hard not to get glue on the background because it will show. It does dry clear in the end. And I'm just using my acrylic block to weigh it down and press it down so I can get move things around. So I'm attempting to use my Uniball Signo white to outline it. And I decide that my Posca pen would do a better job. Now you have to really dry it before you go in with any kind of pen. Just trying to crisp it up and give it some white detailing. And you really can't see from the video how stained the color was. Probably wondering, what is she doing? Everything looks fine. So once I finish with the white, I decide to go back in and paint it. And I'm just kind of holding it up, and I have thinned just plain white paint, and I'm using a liner pen. After years of doing folk art painting, this is something I feel very comfortable with in my hand, so I'm just doing several layers of this white paint. Off camera, I had gone and traced around all the letters with my black Posca pen, and that just crisped up the edges and really made the white look that much whiter. So I was happy with that. Here's some close-ups of the finish art journal page, which I love. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody for subscribing to my channel, for watching and commenting. It means the world to me. Now go out and paint the stars.